FeeCo Depot.
FeeCo Depot.
FeeCo Depot.
Depot.
FeeCo Depot is one of the iconic locations of Oddworld Exoddus, an expansive transport hub filled with massive high-speed trains, carrying mainly the products and property that keep the businesses of the Magog cartel running. Not only is it a central part of their organisation, it's also a central part of the game. You spend quite a lot of time in FeeCo Depot because it's the transport network that takes you to most of the other places in the game, like Slick Barracks, Boneworks, and eventually Soulstorm Brewery. Considering it's so vital to the Magog cartel, it's no wonder they put Vice President Aslik in charge of running it. He's like the complete opposite of General Drippic in that he's actually very intelligent, probably the most intelligent Glukkon that's been seen, second only to Moloch, I'd argue. He's also much more pragmatic, even in his dress sense. He's not really brash and bold like Drippic, for example, and is more muted and classy, but still one of the best dressed Glukkons. Though it should be pointed out that, as his name suggests, he's likely got to such a high position of power due to ass-licking and sucking up to higher authorities. Back to his pragmatism though, I don't think it's unfair to say he's the most pragmatic Glukkon that's been seen, even going so far as to try to appear nice to the slaves that work for him, as he knows there's no point stirring trouble or potentially causing a revolt by being a brutal tyrant if he doesn't have to be. As a result, it's interesting to note that Aslik is one of the only Glukkons that cares more about progress than his ego. Only slightly more though. He still has a giant ego, but he won't let it get in the way of his power if there is even a slight risk it could do so. For example, having a title like Vice President is something the average Glukkon would always proudly show off and boast about, whereas Aslik prefers among FeeCo Depot to be known as Uncle Aslik in order to seem more relatable and kind to his workers. That being said, Aslik of course still does have a massive ego, as is natural in Glukkons. Another funny reference are the posters that appear in FeeCo Depot declaring that Vice President Aslik keeps the trains on time. This is a reference to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, who took credit for making the Italian railway system run on time, which led to a popular saying, "Say what you like about Mussolini, he made the trains run on time." However, apparently the railway system had started improving before he took power, so he just took credit for it basically. Also, while I'm showing a clip of him, what is he doing with his face? He always pulls that face when he's giving a speech. And these trains that Aslik keeps running on time are incredibly fascinating in themselves, and are perhaps one of the most iconic images people likely remember from Oddworld Exoddus, I'd imagine. They're massive, incredibly well designed industrial machines, and as anything of Glukkon design, incorporates that ego I was talking about earlier, by literally making these trains look like giant Glukkon heads. That being said, I genuinely have to appreciate the craftsmanship here, because that's how stuff used to be. You look at old Victorian things, and of course the Victorians were the ones who invented industrializations. That's probably why Oddworld Inhabitants took so much inspiration from them, and they used to put so much detail and work into the stuff they made to make it look unnecessarily stylish and nice. You know, they didn't have to make it look like a ram's head, but they did it anyway because it looks good. That's something that's been lost nowadays, I think, and that's a shame. So I actually appreciate the fact that Glukkons spend so much time making their stuff look nice. And it also tells you something about the Glukkons as well. This art in objects that don't need it was lost in the real world, I think mainly because you could save money if you didn't bother putting so much work into putting detail or crafting it to look like something or whatever. So it's telling that the Glukkons' ego is even greater than their quest for wealth. They would rather make their trains look like massive renditions of themselves as opposed to saving a bit of money and building a more efficient method of transportation. But that's something I like about Oddworld, the detail they put into the designs. They don't outright tell you things, they show you with an immense degree of subtlety, and it's brilliant. If it were a film, it'd be praised immensely for that, yet you don't really hear about that from the storytelling of a game, I think anyway. Anyway, back to Vice President Aslik. Fun fact is that when you encounter him in the game, he's in the toilet. Just look at the tiled walls, the drain he's standing above, and of course the sign that is clearly a toilet sign. Again, another thing that isn't explicitly stated, a clever little in-joke that they put in there. The music of FeeCo Depot is also one of my favourites as well. I mean, I like pretty much all Oddworld music, but the FeeCo Depot theme in particular, along with Slick Barracks. It sort of sounds how you'd imagine a big transport hub to sound like in some ways. The low drums in the background sort of reminding me of boxes and cargo being loaded and unloaded to and from the trains, getting ready to be shipped and all that. After all, the trains are mainly designed to carry cargo and generally only carry top high priority passengers that need to get to places fast, not including the slaves who are shipped via the boxcars as they count as property. On the other hand, Abe just seems to walk right on the trains and do whatever he wants. He doesn't even have an Oyster card. What's that all about? These drums echo in the background, suggesting they're in a massive place. The shipments are being loaded all around and echoing all over this gigantic facility. There's also a thing that sounds like a phone ringing occasionally, which sort of makes it seem, again, busy. Of course, I'm speculating about what all these noises could meant to be, of course, and I'm just trying to relate it to the place the music is representing. FeeCo Depot is confirmed to be returning in Oddworld Soulstorm, except it will be renamed Comet Depot. Likewise, there will be a Glukkon in control of it, but is it Vice President Aslik? Maybe, but I don't think so, because the Glukkon that's been seen to be in charge of it looks quite a bit different, but then again so do all the other Glukkons. They've been given a complete redesign, but also Aslik's name is quite a comedic name, and I think Soulstorm is going for a darker tone and trying to get rid of some of that type of stuff, which is, I believe, the reason they changed FeeCo Depot to Comet Depot. Comet sounds more serious. FeeCo is a joke name, FeeCo as in fecal, as in shit. As a kid I always found the name funny though because it's like coffee backwards, but I guess I couldn't spell coffee back then. So if they changed FeeCo Depot for that reason, it stands to reason that they'd change Aslik as well. So while there'll be a Glukkon most certainly taking his place in Soulstorm and playing a similar role as he did, it will likely be a different character doing the same job. Just like in Abe's Exoddus, Comet Depot looks set to be a massive part of Oddworld Soulstorm, with it appearing in most of the footage that's been released of the game so far, including the clip of Alf and Toby riding on one of its trains to Soulstorm Brewery. Speaking of which, it's good to see that through all the redesigns, the iconic trains ended up being something that they kept. Actually, come to think of it, footage shows Abe hanging onto the side of one of the trains in Oddworld Soulstorm, which makes more sense than him just casually walking onto it, I guess. I look forward to experiencing the new design and gameplay of Comet Depot, a place that will hopefully carry on the legacy of FeeCo Depot in Oddworld Soulstorm.
Hello, follow me. Hehehe